Jordan sat quietly in the reception area of Halston and Graves, a high-powered law firm downtown with nothing but a worn backpack and a manila folder in his lap. The others looked different. Suits tailored tight, shoes glossy, hair sharp. They filled the leather chairs with practiced ease, glancing occasionally at the young black man in the corner. He wore a dark hoodie, jeans, and sneakers that had clearly seen years. No laptop. No notepad. Just the folder. Just him. At the desk, the receptionist scanned the room again. Her eyes skipped over Jordan the first time. Then again the second. Finally, she stood and called, "Mr. Simmons?" The man in the navy pinstripe stood quickly, grinning, and adjusted his tie. But the receptionist looked past him. "No, Jordan Simmons." The grin slipped. A pause tightened the air. Jordan stood, nodded politely, and followed her through the frosted glass doors without a word. He didn't glance back. The office she led him to was glass-walled, minimalist, and cold. A long table, 2 chairs, a pitcher of water. She gestured to a seat. "Someone will be with you shortly." Jordan sat. The folder remained in his lap. Across the glass, people walked by. Some glanced in. Most didn't bother hiding the look, the kind that wondered if he was in the wrong room. 10 minutes passed. Then the door opened briskly. A man stepped in, mid-40s, pressed shirt, silver tie, Harvard pin on his lapel. "Mr. Simmons," he said with a practiced smile. Jordan stood and extended a hand. "Yes, sir?" The man looked him over, paused just a second too long, then shook it. "David Klein, partner here. We have a full slate today, so I'll be brief. You're here for the paralegal program, correct?" Jordan's head tilted slightly. "Actually," but David was already flipping through papers. "We don't usually get recommendations from higher up for these entry-level roles, but here we are." Jordan didn't correct him. David settled into his seat, still not looking directly at Jordan. "So," he said, flipping pages he hadn't read, "tell me what drew you to our firm. What makes you think you'd be a good fit for support staff?" Jordan didn't answer right away. He watched David's face, not out of defiance, but with the quiet calculation of someone who had been in rooms like this before. "I wasn't told this was a support staff role," Jordan said, his voice calm. David chuckled, confused. "Well, this isn't an associate track meeting, if that's what you're thinking." He said it like a joke, but there was something behind it. A knowing smirk. A ceiling already drawn in his mind. Jordan placed the folder on the table, still closed. "I was told the senior partners asked for me directly," he said. David raised an eyebrow. "By whom?" Jordan met his gaze now. "Lillian Graves." For the first time, David looked unsure. He leaned back, the smile thinning. "You know Lillian?" "She supervised my federal clerkship," Jordan replied. "Recommended me for this meeting. Said there was a case here that needed fresh perspective." David blinked. The folder stayed closed. Jordan didn't push it. He didn't need to. David's posture changed, but just slightly. "Enough to notice if you were looking." Jordan was. "She mentioned you were coming," David admitted after a pause. "But I didn't expect." He caught himself. Jordan waited. David cleared his throat. "Didn't expect you this early. That's all." Jordan nodded once. "Understood." The room fell quiet. Outside the glass, a young associate peeked in, saw Jordan, and kept walking. David tried to recover. "So tell me a bit about your background." Jordan finally opened the folder. Inside were 2 documents. He slid one across the table. David glanced at it, hesitated. His eyes scanned the header, United States Court of Appeals, clerkship completion, Honorable Lillian Graves. A quiet beat passed. Then Jordan spoke evenly. "I'm not here for a job. I'm here because someone in your office misfiled a civil discovery packet on the Rosario case. You've got 3 days to comply before sanctions are filed." David stiffened. Jordan placed the second document on the table. "Your paralegal team flagged it as low priority." "It's not." David stared down at the file. He didn't speak. "Not yet." David picked up the second document with slower hands this time. His eyes scanned the heading, Notice of Intent to Sanction, filed by opposing counsel, Rosario vs. Dentrex Corp. He started, but Jordan was already explaining. The file was misdated. The wrong exhibits were sent. Your team submitted a partial brief under an outdated procedural rule. David looked up, the color draining slightly from his face. "And how do you know all this?" he asked, quieter now. "I've been consulting on the Dentrex litigation since March," Jordan said. "Lillian brought me in when it got messy." "She didn't tell you." David opened his mouth, then closed it. Jordan continued, "I sent recommendations last week. No one responded. So she asked me to come in. No arrogance. No anger. Just facts." The silence between them stretched. Finally, David leaned back, lips pressed thin. His earlier confidence was gone, replaced with a cautious kind of respect. Or maybe fear. "I'll call a meeting," he said, reaching for his phone. Jordan didn't move. "Don't." David blinked. "I'm not staying," Jordan added, standing now, tucking the folder back into his bag. "I've already done my part." David stood too, unsure whether to offer a hand or an apology. Jordan didn't give him the chance. He was already at the door. Jordan stepped into the hallway. Heads turned. Not all at once, but the kind of slow, reflexive glances people give when they feel something shift. like a scent of smoke before the fire. He didn't walk fast. No need. Across the corridor, two junior associates stood with coffee in hand. One whispered something. The other smirked, eyes flicking to Jordan's backpack. They didn't know what had just happened in that room. Didn't know that inside, David Klein, partner, Harvard graduate, silver-tied and rattled, was sitting quietly, rereading every line of a document he never expected Jordan to carry. Jordan passed the conference room. Inside, he saw a name on the glass, Rosario Strategy Brief, Internal Review. No one in there looked over 35. No one in there looked like him. He didn't stop. Not out of dismissal. Just experience. This wasn't the first place to underestimate him. But today it might be the last time they did. Jordan pressed the button. Waited. The hallway behind him was still humming, phones ringing, shoes tapping tile, but there was a different rhythm now. Uneasy. Like people sensed a story had just started and they weren't sure what chapter they'd walked into. The elevator dinged. As the doors slid open, a man in his 60s stepped out. Tall, white hair, sharp suit, walking with a subtle limp. He paused when he saw Jordan. Then smiled. Leaving already? He asked. Jordan nodded. Just delivered the warning shot. The man chuckled, stepping aside. You didn't tell them you were coming, did you? No, sir. Good. The man extended a hand. Call me when you've got time. There's a board seat opening in September. Jordan shook it briefly. I'll think about it. Then he stepped inside. The doors closed. And the old man turned, walking down the hall with a smile that said he already knew, by the end of the day, everyone else would too. 37 minutes after Jordan left, David Klein sent an email to the senior team. Subject, immediate action required, Rosario case and misfile. Tone, urgent, tight, stripped of his usual polish. He didn't mention Jordan by name. He only wrote, an external review identified critical procedural errors in our handling of Rosario versus Dentrex. We are now at risk of sanctions. Details attached. Emergency meeting at 3 p.m. Attached was a PDF titled simply Simmons_memo.pdf. By 3:07 everyone had read it. By 3:14 one associate had already asked, who's Simmons? And by 3:19 the answer came from Lillian Graves herself in a reply to all. He's the reason we haven't already lost the case. You're welcome. No one responded to that. Not because there was nothing to say, but because no one wanted to admit they'd seen him earlier and hadn't seen him at all. At 4:11 p.m. in a private Slack channel titled #PartnerStrategy, messages flew. Does anyone know who referred the Simmons guy? Lillian brought him in months ago. You seriously didn't know? He's not even on payroll. Then why the hell is he writing legal memos like this? Because he's the one who caught what 3 of our teams missed. Silence followed that. Then a new message. I passed him in the lobby this morning. Thought he was lost. Didn't even ask if he needed help. At 4:23 someone added. I think I asked him if he was waiting for the mailroom. No one replied to that one. But a minute later, someone else changed the name of the Slack channel from #PartnerStrategy to #CultureCheck and left the original messages untouched. At 5:02 p.m. Lillian Graves sent Jordan a text. You lit the fuse. Nicely done. He replied 5 minutes later. Didn't say much. Just showed them what they missed. No emojis. No bravado. Just fact. At that moment, in one of the glass conference rooms on the 19th floor, David Klein stood at the head of the table. His sleeves were rolled up now. No silver tie. He looked different, not because he had changed, but because something had cracked under pressure. I want a list, he said. Everyone who touched the Rosario brief. Everyone who let it pass. We're not repeating this. A junior associate shifted in his chair. Should we reach out to Simmons for clarification? David shook his head. He's already done his job. He doesn't owe us more time. No one argued. Because for once, they understood Jordan didn't come looking for validation. He came because someone trusted him with the truth. And he delivered it. Without needing to prove who he was. The next morning, Kira, the receptionist from the lobby, watched as partners streamed into the building earlier than usual. Unusual tension. Less small talk. Fewer jokes. She scrolled through her inbox, sipped lukewarm coffee, and then paused. Subject line, staff memo, firm culture. From Lillian Graves. She clicked. Inside was a brief statement. Every person who walks through our doors deserves respect. Titles and clothing won't always tell you who someone is. Behavior will. Kira stared at the screen. And then remembered the young man from the day before. The one she'd nearly skipped over. Hoodie. Backpack. Quiet. Calm. She hadn't been rude. But she hadn't looked twice either. For the rest of the day, she did. Every person who walked in, she looked them in the eye. Some she greeted by name. Some she didn't know yet. But she didn't assume again. Eli Tran's second-year associate sat at his desk rereading the Simmons memo. He'd been on the Rosario team. Had skimmed the same documents. Had missed the same error. He remembered seeing Jordan in the hallway 24 hours ago, tops. He'd assumed, well, he hadn't thought much at all. And that was the problem. Eli minimized the memo and opened a blank email. Type Jordan's name in the recipient line, then backspaced. He didn't have his contact. Of course he didn't. Instead, he wrote it in a Word doc. Just for himself. You didn't speak loudly. You didn't dress the part. But you saw what I didn't. And I needed that. He didn't know if he'd ever send it. But the act of writing it made it harder to forget. 2 days later, Jordan returned, this time for a scheduled meeting with Lillian. He wore the same hoodie, same backpack, same unbothered calm. As he stepped into the elevator, a young woman in a blazer stepped in beside him. She didn't recognize him, but she smiled politely. Jordan nodded. Before the doors closed, a third person slipped in. David Klein. He froze for just half a second when he saw Jordan. Then nodded once. Quiet. Respectful. No performance. They rode in silence. On floor 12, the young woman stepped off. Jordan and David remained. As the elevator climbed, David finally spoke. We're implementing new review protocols. Based on your memo. Jordan said nothing. I read it 3 times, David added. Still stings. But it's right. Jordan looked over, expression even. Then let it sting, he said. The elevator dinged. Floor 15. He stepped out without looking back. Lillian's office was quiet, high-walled, and warm with light from the tall windows behind her. She stood when Jordan entered, offering a brief smile. You shook the tree, she said, motioning to the chair across from her. Jordan's Saturday didn't take much. No. But it landed. She passed him a folder. They want you back. Officially. Consulting on the full case portfolio. Jordan didn't open it. Not interested in titles. I told them you wouldn't be. She leaned back. I just want people to stop deciding who's valuable before they even speak, Jordan said. Lillian nodded, folding her hands. They will. Slowly. 1 room at a time. He looked out the window. Below, traffic flowed. Small. Unaware. Feels like a lot, he said quietly. That's because it is, she replied. But you're doing it anyway. And that, they both understood, was the point. Jordan left the building the same way he entered it, through the side door, unnoticed by most. No applause. No headlines. Just pavement under his shoes and late morning light warming the sidewalk. Behind him, emails would circulate. Meetings would shift. People would talk, adjusting the way they looked at others, if only slightly. And maybe next time someone walked in wearing worn sneakers in silence, they'd think twice before judging. A block away, Jordan stopped at a street vendor, bought coffee, and sat on a bench. No folder now? No pressure. A young intern from the firm walked by. She paused, did a double take. You were in the Rosario brief meeting, she said, almost shyly. Jordan looked up, nodded. I just wanted to say, she added, thanks. People are paying more attention now. Jordan gave a quiet smile. They should have been already. She nodded and walked on, thoughtful. Jordan sat still, sipping his coffee, watching people move past. Same world. Different weight. And he didn't need to be seen to know he'd changed something.